Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of the Development Control and Regulatory Board, this day, the 21st of May. As usual, the meeting will be broadcast live to the public for those not able to watch the footage live. The webcast will be available for all viewings on the County Council website after the meeting. Due to the current situation, all other members of the board and officers presenting today are joining online. Can I please ask that all officers and members mute their microphones until they wish or are invited to speak, and please turn your video on. I will now go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves. I understand that there are no substitutes today, so I'll start with Mr. Bentley.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ian Bentley, first.
Okay. Mr. Charlesworth. Michael.
Afternoon, Chair.
Are you with us? Great. Mr. Coxon, I'm here. Mr. Crooks. Mr. Crooks.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor for Mallory Division.
Thank you. Mr. Gamble. No. Mr. Gillard.
Yeah, President Chairman, Tony Gillard, Whittick Division.
Thank you, Tony. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan Harrison, Appleby and Ibstock Division.
Bill Licorice.
Afternoon, Chairman. Yes, Bill Licorice, Broughton Division.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Phillimore. Mr. Phillimore.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Councillor Les Phillimore, Cosby and Councilthorpe Division.
Yeah, thank you. Mrs. Richards.
Good afternoon, everybody. Janice Richards, Shilton Division. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Mr. Sheehan.
Sean Sheehan, Forest and Measham Division.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Mrs. Wright.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Margaret Wright, Stoney Stanton and Croft Division.
Thank you. Mr. Wyatt. Michael? That looks like to be no then. Okay.
Just bear with me, Chair.
Hi there, Michael.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you. That concludes the list of participants then. We'll carry on with the agenda now then. The first item on the agenda is the minutes for the held of the meeting on the 12th of March 2020. I propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of March 2020 are taken as read, confirmed and signed. Would someone like to perhaps second that?
Yeah.
Seconded. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Item number 2 is I sound like I've got a gremlin. Item number 2 is question time. No questions have been received from the public. Item 3, questions asked by members under Standing Orders 7.3 and 7.5. There are no questions. Item 4, to advise of any other items which the Chairman has decided to take as urgent elsewhere on the agenda. There are no urgent items. Declarations of interest. In respect of items on the agenda, it is noted that all members who are members of parish, town, district or liaison committee will have personal interest in those applications which relate to areas covered by those authorities. Are there any further declarations on this application today?
I'm not seeing any microphones muted.
Well, it looks like that's no one's responded to that. Item 6 is presentation of petitions under Standing Order 36. There are no petitions received. Moving on to the main application item is application 7, or number 7. Application is 202/0072/02. Can I please ask Oliver to present the item then, please? Okay. Can I please ask members to allow officers to present their full report before asking questions, as members are joining online to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. I propose once that officers have finished presenting the item, the first ask the local member for comments. If they are not in attendance, I will then open up to questions. To indicate that you have a question, please unmute your microphone and I will call upon you one at a time. To be sure everyone has their say, I will finalise by quickly calling on members asked if you have anything further to add. Over to you then, Oliver, please, if you'd present this report.
Thank you very much, Chair. This application relates to the variation of Condition 2 of the planning permission for an energy from waste facility at the former Newhurst Quarry near Shepshed. The former Newhurst Quarry site lies to the west of the M1 motorway at junction 23 to the southeast of Shepshed, and you can see it relatively centrally on this slide, defined by a red line boundary next to junction 23. The former quarry is bounded by the M1 to the east, the A512 to the north, and the B591 Inglebury Road to the southwest. The site is accessed from the north off the A512. The offices of Hanson UK adjoin the site at its northern boundary, and there are other industrial uses to the north on the opposite side of the A512. The two closest residential properties are located approximately 230 metres from the north and 430 metres from the south of the main energy recovery facility building, respectively. Other residential properties, including the closest residential area in Shepshed, are located in excess of 500 metres from the building. The Newhurst Quarry site connects to Longcliffe Quarry, which is on the eastern side of the M1, and it connects via an underpass at the southern end of the site. The Erf Application Boundary comprises part of the former Newhurst Quarry site, and the proposed built development is located to the east of the quarry void. The application site extends to approximately 15.5 hectares. This aerial photograph is taken from the northwest of the site, looking in a southeast direction. You can see the M1 in the background, and to the right you can see the quarry void. This aerial photograph is taken from the northeast of the site, looking in a westerly direction. The A512 is visible on the right side of the image, along with the site entrance. This aerial photograph is taken from the south of the site, looking in a northerly direction. And this aerial photograph is taken from a similar location, looking in a northerly direction, and shows a slightly wider context. And you can see the M1 motorway to the right of the image and the quarry void to the left. To provide some background to the proposed development, quarrying operations were undertaken at Newhurst Quarry since the mid-19th century, although no extraction operations have taken place since around 2000. Planning permission was granted in June 2012 for the construction and operation of an energy recovery facility known as an ERF and ancillary facilities at the former Newhurst Quarry. The original ERF planning application was amended in March 2015 to make changes relating to the combustion process technology, changing it to a single line capable of processing up to 350,000 tonnes per annum. It also reduced the number of stacks or flues to a single flue. This slide shows the currently approved ERF layouts. Key points to note are that there is an incinerator bottom ash maturation area to the north of the ERF building. In addition, the car park is located to the west with a footbridge linking it to the building. This planning application is seeking modifications to the layout of the ERF by way of a variation of the approved ERF drawings. Incinerator bottom ash, known as IBA, is the remnant ash material that results from the incineration process. The main change to the site layout is the removal of the IBA maturation area, which is no longer required, as there are now several off-site facilities that can process the ash. From the previous slide, you could see that the IBA would have been processed within an area to the north of the ERF building. However, with the removal of the IBA maturation area, it is proposed to relocate the car park to this area, remove a peripheral wall and footbridge, and provide additional landscaping. Other minor changes to the design include some alterations to the size and location of the louvres and doors as a result of changes to internal arrangements, alteration of access points on the service roads, a reconfiguration of the coolers, which are located on the eastern facade of the building, provision of a diesel generator set to the western facade of the building for use in the event of an emergency shutdown, and an additional weighbridge. The currently approved energy recovery facility would generate 37 megawatts of energy with 33 megawatts available to export to the grid. The proposed changes sought under this application would result in improved efficiency, and it is expected the plant would generate 43 megawatts, of which approximately 39.6 would be available for export. There are no proposed changes to the quantity of waste to be imported to the plant. This slide shows the eastern elevation of the approved ERF building at the top and the proposed elevation at the bottom. As you can see, there is no difference in size, shape or scale, but there have been some minor alterations to the external cladding appearance. In addition, you will see the removal of a wall associated with the IBA area and its replacement with car parking. There are no objections from any statutory or technical consultees, and there have been no representations from members of the public. The overall principle of the development is established by the existing planning permission. Nevertheless, it is worth reiterating that the development is supported in local and national policy, most notably in its management of waste up the waste hierarchy and achieving a demonstrable energy recovery benefit. In respect of the Leicestershire Minerals and Waste Local Plan, the ERF plays a key role in providing sufficient capacity to meet an identified waste management shortfall. This ERF is therefore important to the success of the overall current strategy and approach to dealing with the residual, non-inert, non-hazardous wastes generated over the plan period to 2031. The implementation of the ERF therefore accords with policies W1, W7 and DM1 of the Minerals and Waste Local Plan. In reviewing the planning permission, the opportunity has been taken to update conditions to refer to previously submitted information. In addition, where further information is required as a result of changes to the scheme, this has been accommodated in the recommended conditions set out in the appendix. For example, Condition 3 requires an updated landscaping scheme to be submitted. When planning permission was previously granted, it was subject to a legal agreement which covered bond monies for the protection of listed structures on the Garendon estate, a landscape and ecological management plan, a Garendon estate planting scheme, routing restrictions, the cessation of mineral extraction, and the establishment of a liaison committee. The legal agreement will need to be updated to take account of this application. In addition, it will cover the need for an updated landscape and ecological management plan relating to the Garendon estate, as a large housing development was approved by Charnwood Borough Council, which affects the original management plan. In conclusion, the proposed development is in accordance with the local plan, and the recommendation set out in the report is that planning permission is granted subject to the conditions at Appendix A and the updating of the current Section 106 agreement. That's the end of the presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver. We have not received any comments from the local member, which is Mrs. Radford. So I'm going to now open it up to questions and comments from members. Tony Gillard.
Yeah, Chairman, I'm happy with that. Can I move the opposite recommendation?
Can indeed, Tony. Did you want to make any other comments?
Seems okay to me. I'm happy with the report. It's quite a good report. So I'm more than happy to move, Chairman.
Could I second Mr.
Mr. Harrison, you wanted to comment.
Yes, thank you. Could I first of all start by seconding the proposition that you've already received? But as a way and as a side issue, I'd just like to draw the board's attention to paragraph 25, page 14, where Charnwood Borough Environmental Head stated there was no significant effects on noise levels, but there's never mentioned about air pollution, Mr. Chairman. And then on paragraph 40, there's a comment potential to reducing dust and noise, but nothing again to talk about the level of air pollution. On paragraph 43, there's a comment that there are no implications with regard to air quality, and I'd simply say, has there been any air quality measurements taken recently because of that implication? And on paragraph 22 on the conditions, as condition of development and air quality monitoring, they suggest NOx, but doesn't talk anything about the PM 2.5. Now, my point is this, Chairman, I'm supporting this, but I think it's important that we don't allow air pollution just to be sort of a word and a comment, but no sort of solid facts. So my comments are, and I hope somebody will pick up on them, that, you know, perhaps we do want to have some reports on the quality of air, because it is important. It's the bit that nobody sees. We all hear the noise, see traffic, but we don't see the pollution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oliver, have you any comments on what Mr. Harrison has had to say, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do have a couple of comments to make. First of all, in relation to the comments from the Environmental Health Officer, I think that relates to the removal of the incinerated bottom ash area. Because this was a maturation area that was external, the processing and storage of the ash in this area was the part of the development that could have potentially had risks of dust and noise. The fact that it's been removed from this scheme means that that the ash that would be generated is going to be loaded onto HGVs within the building and taken off site, and it's not going to be stored or processed outdoors. The removal of that part of the scheme is of benefit to the potential for noise and dust arisings. In terms of air quality from a point source emission point of view, so that's the emissions from the stack generated through the incineration of the waste. That's something that's controlled by an environmental permit regulated by the Environment Agency, and there are very, very strict limits within which they have to accord with, but it is part of a separate regulatory process. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Thanks for your comments. Now I go to Mr. Crooks.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this site quite well. I used to work at ARC site next door to it, so it's a much needed facility, so I'm completely in favour of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crooks. Mr. Sheehan.
Chair, yes, it seems a very straightforward one. We've got the existing planning permission. This is an amendment to that. I can't see any problems with this, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Sean. We now have a motion on the table. What I'm going to do is read out the members' names and if in alphabetical order, and if you could please indicate whether you're for or against the application. I'll start as I did before. Mr. Bentley.
For, Chair.
Mr. Charlesworth.
For, Chair.
Mr. Coxon. For. Mr. Crooks.
For.
Mr. Gamble. Mr. Gillard.
For, Chairman.
Mr. Harrison.
For, Chairman.
Bill Licorice.
For, Chairman.
Mr. Phillimore.
For, thank you.
Mrs. Richards.
For, Chairman.
Mr. Sheehan.
For.
Mrs. Wright.
For.
Mr. Wyatt. Michael.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman? For.
I can now, Michael. Yeah, thank you. Well, that looks to be pretty well unanimous. Thank you for that. We'll move on to item number 8 then, which is delegated report schedule January 2020 to March 2020. This report is nothing. This report is for nothing. Sorry, I've got this wrong. Do apologise. This report is for nothing. Are there any questions from members? Strange thing.
Noted.
Sorry?
Reports were noted.
Oh, the reports are noted. Thank you. Bit of a typo on that, I'm afraid. Okay, item number 9. Any other items the chairman has decided to take as urgent? As I said previously, that there isn't any urgent items. Item 10, chairman's announcement. The only announcement I have is that no delegated enforcement notice is issued between 2020 January and March 2020. So I call this meeting to a close and thank you all for your contributions. Thank you very much.